everybody, and welcome to another edition of Charts with Dan. We have a look at the latest weekend in box office news, including a good opening for the first time in a while for Blumhouse, as well as a not-so-great second weekend for Tron Ares, and everything else in the box office top 10 and beyond. So let's jump right into it and look at the latest weekend figures. This is for October 17th through the 19th, and Black Phone 2 opened with a higher than expected, and it's nice to hear a movie opening higher than expected. It has not been the case lately. $27.3 million. It went up over the weekend. The actuals were above the estimates. That's good news for Blumhouse. That is their highest opening in almost exactly 2 years, their biggest opening since Five Nights at Freddy's in October of 2023. They lost a little bit of luster with movies like Megan 2.0, so it's good to see them back to their low budget, exceeding expectation ways. In second place was Tron Ares, which did not have a great opening weekend last week and had a not great hold in its second week. It dropped 66.6%. Ooh, what a scary, spooky number for this Halloween season. $11.1 million, a domestic total of $54.5 million. We knew that this was a financial disappointment last week. It remains a financial disappointment this week. In third place was the Aziz Ansari comedy Good Fortune, which opened to $6.1 million. That's neither horrifically bad nor horrifically good. One Battle After Another continues to hold pretty well. It dropped 43.4%, but the numbers are in the single digits, $3.85 million for its fourth weekend. Its domestic total now $61.7 million. This remains an awards play. It will not be a big financial play for Warner Brothers. Roofman in its second week dropped 53.9% for a $3.7 million total. It's at $15.5 million. In sixth place was the latest release from Angel Studios, Truth and Treason, which brought in $2.8 million. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, in weekend number 4, dropped 49% to bring in another $1.76 million. Its domestic total now is over $30 million. The Conjuring Last Rites is hanging around as Halloween approaches. It made $1.6 million, which means its domestic total is now above $175 million. After the Hunt expanded into wide release after 1 weekend and very limited release, so that accounts for the 864% increase in business. It brought in $1.5 million. And Soul on Fire in its second weekend dropped 53.3% to bring in another $1.3 million. We had 4 films dropping out of the top 10. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is out after 5 weeks, although any anime film being in the top 10 for 5 weeks is pretty impressive. The Strangers Chapter 2 is out after 3 weeks. The Smashing Machine exits the top 10 after just 2 weeks. And Good Boy is out of the top 10 also after 2 weeks. And looking at the biggest theater count changes, well, it's no surprise the Smashing Machine dropped out of the top 10 because it lost 2,502 theaters. Not a whole lot of them keeping the movie around past 2 weeks. It's only in 819, which means it's out of wide release. And again, when you look at the hype for that movie coming in for Dwayne Johnson, that's not a great result. After the Hunt had a 1,232 theater increase, which makes it the second biggest theater count change of the weekend. It's now in a total of 1,238 theaters. The Strangers Chapter 2 dropped 861 theaters. Good Boy dropped 630 theaters. And One Battle After Another shed its first big chunk of theaters. It lost 595. It's still in 2,532. This is our road to not-so-recovery, especially when you look at what's happened in the last few weeks over the course of October. The red line is the box office weekend average for 2021 to 2024. The blue line is the pre-pandemic weekend average, and the dotted black line is every weekend this year. And you can see that for the second consecutive weekend, we are below not just where we were pre-pandemic, but especially this weekend, far below what the average has been, even since theaters have been open again in the last few years. This has been a very disappointing October. We've got one more October weekend, but man, just not a great month. There's even more pressure now on November and December to help not just increase against last year, but to make up for what we've lost this month. So let's talk about some of the movies that are in the domestic top 10, and we will start with Black Phone 2, which had the 6th best opening for a horror film this year, behind The Conjuring Last Rites, which had the biggest opening, Final Destination Bloodlines, Sinners, Weapons, and 28 Years Later. Black Phone 2 comes in just behind 28 Years Later and well ahead of The Monkey, Him, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Wolfman, which, even though it had one of the 10 best openings for a horror film this year, does not show up on this list, which is the 10 highest grossing horror films of the year. Wolfman's actually the only one on that opening list that's not on this chart. Hard Eyes comes in at number 8, replacing Wolfman. Sinners, of course, the highest grossing horror film of the year, followed by The Conjuring, Last Rites, Weapons, Final Destination, Bloodlines, and 28 Years Later. Right now, The Monkeys at number 6, with I Know What You Did Last Summer at number 7 with $32.1 million. Hard Eyes is there at $30 million, but Black Phone 2 is going to rise up this chart pretty quickly because it's already the 9th highest grossing horror film of the year. It's past Him with $27.3 million. And I think that it will be at least number 6 on this list, and we'll see how it does in the weeks to come. And with everything else that's been going on, I haven't really been charting the trajectory of The Conjuring Last Rites. When it comes to R-rated horror films, it is now one of the 10 highest grossing R-rated horror films of all time. And actually, when you look at this chart, 3 of the 10 highest grossing R-rated horror films ever were released this year. Now, this is, of course, unadjusted for inflation. It is the number 1 highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time. Sinners is in second place. The Exorcist, even before you adjust for inflation, is in third place. It Chapter 2 is in fourth place. Get Out is in fifth. Then we have The Conjuring Last Rites in sixth place, and it will soon pass the domestic gross of Get Out in order to enter that top 5. Us is at number 7, so right now The Conjuring Last Rites is sandwiched between 2 films from Jordan Peele. 2018's Halloween is at number 8. Weapons is at number 9, so a movie from this summer. And The Blair Witch Project, again, before you adjust for inflation, is at number 10 when it comes to R-rated horror. Black Phone 2, I think, succeeded on the strength of The Grabber, which is quickly becoming a new horror icon. Of course, The Grabber is played by Ethan Hawke. And that leads us to our trivia question this week. What movie starring or co-starring Ethan Hawke had the biggest domestic opening weekend? And I can tell you there were 2 movies that it was very close between these 2 movies. So which movie starring Ethan Hawke or co-starring him had the biggest opening weekend? I'll give you a second to pause if you don't want to know the answer, but here it comes. It was The Magnificent Seven. Of course, he was part of an ensemble with that film. It opened to $34.7 million, which just narrowly gave it the title of the biggest opener ever for Ethan Hawke. Let's talk about Tron Ares a little bit. This is the franchise tracker for Tron when you adjust for inflation, and you can see that Tron Ares still in third place at $54.5 million. The original Tron made $90.3 million adjusted for inflation, and unless Tron Ares really shows some staying power, I think it is in a lot of danger of staying in third place there and not even grossing as much as the original Tron when you take inflation into account. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to keep tracking that over the next few weeks. And let's look at last week's member poll. I asked if there would ever be another theatrically released Tron movie, and the majority of the members who voted here on the channel said that there would be, but in 10 or more years. 56% of people who responded to the poll said that the next Tron movie would be in a decade or more. 17% said that they believed that, yes, there would be another theatrically released Tron movie and that we're going to get it within 10 years, which is not something that's happened so far in the franchise. And 27% of the people who responded said, no, there will never be another theatrically released Tron movie. But the majority of voters holding out hope for the next generation and a new Tron. And that takes us to this week's member poll question. The Bruce Springsteen biopic Deliver Me From Nowhere opens on Friday. So I wanted to know, what musician or band who has not yet had a biopic do you think would make the best movie? So what is the best untold music biopic story out there? Leave your answer right now on the member poll. If your answer is already there, it is very helpful to me if you would just upvote that answer instead of leaving it as a duplicate answer. It just makes calculating things easier. The results will be revealed on next week's Charts with Dan. And if you're not a member here on the channel, you can do that right now. Depending on how you're watching the video, there might be a button that you can push that just says become a member, or there's definitely a link down in the description below. Not only do you get to vote in the member poll every week, but you also get early access to some of my videos, custom badges and emoji for the comment section down below. And it's a lot of fun. I just like to hear what members have to say, especially these questions that I ask here on the show, because I don't know. It's always interesting. I will say that. There's rarely a week that goes by that the answer doesn't surprise me in some way. These were the top per theater averages for this past weekend. At number 1 was Jafar Panahi's already, I think, Oscar frontrunner for Best International Film. It was Just an Accident, which won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. It opened in just 3 theaters, but brought in $22,765 per theater. In second place was the latest film by Kelly Reichardt, The Mastermind, which brought in $20,793 per theater in 5 theaters. Playing in just 1 theater was the Dalai Lama conversation film Wisdom of Happiness, which brought in $13,737 per theater. Blue Moon, which also stars Ethan Hawke, so he has the number 1 movie in wide release and one of the top movies when it comes to per theater average, came in 4th place at $13,412 per theater in 5 theaters. I believe that is expanding quite a bit this upcoming weekend. And at number 5 is a movie called F My Son, except they actually use the F word there. I don't want to get demonetized. It played in just 1 theater and brought in $9,123 in that 1 theater. And from what I can tell, it is very much a sort of shock/camp, John Watersy type thing about an old lady who kidnaps somebody to have intercourse with her son. I mean, it's all right there in the title. So anyway, F My Son at number 5 on the per theater average chart for this week. Looking at the top films in limited release, which I define as 1,000 theaters or fewer, at number 1 was a special live presentation of the Metropolitan Opera La Sonnambula, playing in 694 theaters. It brought in $629,000. In second place is Dude, which is a film from India. It brought in just over $600,000 in an unknown number of theaters. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You expanded to 25 theaters and brought in $171,000. Then we have The Mastermind in 5 theaters. It brought in a total of just over $100,000. And playing in 149 theaters is Eleanor the Great, which brought in another $81,000. Taking our attention now from the domestic box office, let's look at the top 5 internationally. So this is everything outside of the United States and Canada. And the number 1 film internationally was also Black Phone 2, bringing in $15.5 million. Tron Ares had a less steep drop internationally than it did domestically. It dropped 47.8% and brought in $14.1 million. One Battle After Another held well. It dropped 21.3% to bring in another $11.8 million. Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, which opens here in the United States this upcoming Friday, brought in another $7.6 million. That's just a 14.8% drop from the week before. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, rounds out the top 5 with just a 6.5% drop and a $6.7 million weekend total. When you take those international numbers, you combine them with our domestic numbers, we get the top 5 films worldwide, and Black Phone 2 is the number 1 movie in the world at $42.8 million. This is actually the same 5 movies, just in a slightly different order. Tron Ares had an overall 58.1% drop in weekend number 2 and a $25.2 million global gross. That takes its worldwide gross over $100 million. One Battle After Another had a 28.2% weekend over weekend drop for a $15.65 million total and a $162 million global total. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, brought in $8.5 million globally, and Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, brought in $7.6 million. Its global gross is now at over $68.3 million. These are the top 10 movies at the fall holiday box office, so starting at Labor Day and every weekend after that. And at number 1 is The Conjuring Last Rites at $175.4 million. Right now, the only other $100 million domestic grosser this season, this fall-winter season, is Demon Slayer Infinity Castle at $131.1 million. One Battle After Another is in third. Tron Ares, by virtue of just not a whole lot of other movies making a bunch of money, rises to 4th place on the chart with $54.5 million. That's a 3-spot increase from last week. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, moves down 1 spot to number 5. The Long Walk is at number 6. Taylor Swift's Release Party drops down 2 spots to number 7. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie's at number 8. Black Phone 2 enters the fall holiday box office chart at number 9, and it's going to be looking to work its way up that list in the next few weeks. And Him drops down to number 10. The re-release of Hamilton, now off the charts for the fall holiday box office season. So that's what's going on at the box office. Let's quickly look at the latest from the world of streaming, and we'll start with the latest numbers from Netflix, with new numbers being released later today. This is for the week of October 6th through the 12th, and the number one program on Netflix globally was The Woman in Cabin 10, starring Keira Knightley. The thriller brought in 21.16 million views. That's good enough for number one. In second place was the second week, and really the first full week, for Monster, the Ed Gein story, at 20.7 million views. K-pop Demon Hunters down there at number 3 with a paltry 17.82 million views. All that does is pad the numbers as Netflix's most watched movie ever. In fourth place is Caramello with 17.35 million views. This is a movie from Brazil about a man and a bond that he has with a stray dog that he meets. Sounds like a heartwarming film. In fifth place is the South Korean series Genie Make-A-Wish, which brought in just over 8 million views. Then we have the Netflix original movie My Father, the BTK Killer at 5.75 million views. Is It Cake? Halloween Season 1 comes in 7th place at 5.66 million views. You may have asked yourself before watching the show, is that thing cake or is it not cake? Well, now there is a version that's about Halloween. So there you go. At number 8 is the Netflix limited series Victoria Beckham with 5.59 million views. The Netflix original series Wayward is at number 9. And at number 10 is Godzilla Kong: The New Empire with 5.32 million total views. Let's look now at the Nielsen ratings. Now, they're different from the Netflix numbers in that they're domestic only, they're not global, and they're delayed by about a month. So this is for the week of September 15th through the 21st. These are the 10 most watched streaming movies that week. At number 1, no shocker here, K-pop Demon Hunters at 13.8 million hours watched. In second place is the Liam Neeson film Ice Road Vengeance at 12.13 million hours watched. In third place, we have the debut of Elio on Disney Plus at 9.16 million hours watched. That might be the most viewers that Elio has had in any weekend, including when it was in theaters. AKA Charlie Sheen, which I am counting as a movie because Netflix counts as a movie, is at number 4. Superman's debut on HBO Max comes in 5th place at 8.5 million hours watched. Then we have The Wrong Paris in 6th place. This year's Lilo and Stitch in 7th place. The debut of 28 Years Later on Netflix comes in at number 8 with 4.38 million hours watched. Moving On Netflix comes in 9th place. And Terror Comes Knocking on a couple different streaming services comes in at number 10 at 3.33 million hours watched. These were the most watched streaming shows for the week of September 15th to the 21st. At number 1 was the Tyler Perry series Beauty in Black at 22.5 million hours watched. Right behind was the debut of Black Rabbit on Netflix at 20.5 million hours watched. That's better chart-wise than it did globally, so it seems fairly obvious that Black Rabbit had a much more domestic viewing base as opposed to elsewhere around the world. Wednesday's in 3rd place. At number 4, this was the finale week of The Summer I Turned Pretty on Amazon Prime Video, and it brought in enough hours watched to come in at number 4 overall when you look at all programs. SpongeBob SquarePants comes in 5th place, followed by Bluey at number 6. SWAT, which returns to the chart after some time away, comes in at number 7. Bob's Burgers is at number 8. The Big Bang Theory is at number 9. And Law & Order, which is a frequent visitor on the top 10 chart, comes in at number 10 at 10.2 million hours watched. These are the top 10 streaming shows when you look at watch time per available episode. So you take the total number of hours watched divided by the total number of episodes you can watch. That's how you get this number. Black Rabbit is at the top of the chart with 2.57 million hours watched per episode. Wednesday comes in 2nd place at 1.06 million hours per episode. Then we have Beauty in Black at just under 1 million hours per episode. Miss Rachel comes in at number 4 at almost 800,000 hours per episode. In 5th place is the South Korean series Bon Appetit, Your Majesty with 780,000 hours per episode. Then we have Gen V on Amazon Prime Video. As it was ramping into its 2nd season, it brought in 642,000 hours per episode. The Summer I Turned Pretty comes in 7th place. Only Murders in the Building comes in 8th place. The Great British Baking Show, one of my favorite fall treats, comes in 9th place at 88,735 hours per episode. And Bluey comes in at number 10. And those are all the numbers I have for you. But before we go, I wanted to draw your attention to a few things that you might be interested in watching either at home or in theaters. First of all, today, a couple of recent releases are available to purchase on digital video or for premium video on demand, which are those higher price rentals. The Long Walk, which I reviewed here on the channel due to popular demand, is available today to watch at home, as is The Roses, which hit theaters several weeks ago. Tomorrow, hitting a very small, limited number of theaters, is an Amazon original movie called Hedda. It hits Amazon Prime Video next Wednesday. Nia DaCosta directs Tessa Thompson in the title role in this adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's play Hedda Gabler. Also hitting theaters on Wednesday is the annual re-release of The Nightmare Before Christmas. So if it is a Halloween tradition for you to go see that movie in theaters, this is the week to do that. I just mentioned Gen V on the streaming charts. Well, the season 2 finale airs tomorrow on Amazon Prime Video, and airing tomorrow on Hulu is a 2025 remake of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, which is a landmark 90s thriller. I know it as the movie starring Rebecca De Mornay, but if you love that movie and want to see a new version, or if you've never seen the movie, check out the new version on Hulu. On Thursday, the ironically named Nobody Wants This Season 2 debuts with 10 episodes to binge on Netflix. Apparently somebody wanted it because there's a second season. And we have a robust theatrical lineup this upcoming weekend. First of all, opening Friday, we have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, which hits theaters around the country. Jeremy Allen White plays Bruce Springsteen in a film focusing on the recording of the album Nebraska. Jeremy Strong co-stars as Springsteen's producer, John Landau. I come from a Bruce Springsteen superfan household, so it's going to be tough for me to separate the fictional depiction of the boss from actual Bruce Springsteen, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Also hitting theaters this Friday, it began with a Kickstarter and it ended with Neon and Mike Flanagan jumping on board. Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks hits theaters on Friday. I saw it as part of the AMC Scream Unseen series last night. I will probably have a review up here on the channel. If not tomorrow, then perhaps the day after. I said that I wasn't sure if I'm going to review it, but I think I am going to, so look for that very soon. Also hitting theaters on Friday is Regretting You. It's from director Josh Boone. He directed The Fault in Our Stars. It's based on a book by Colleen Hoover, who wrote It Ends With Us. Not the drama around the movie, but the actual book that It Ends With Us was based on. Regretting You features Allison Williams and McKenna Grace as a mother and daughter dealing with love and death. Dave Franco and Mason Thames co-star in that film. And as I mentioned before, Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, hits theaters here in North America after hitting many, many countries before it opened here. It's the continuation of the anime series that a lot of people have been looking forward to. In limited release is one of my most anticipated films of the year, Bugonia. It'll be hitting many more theaters next weekend, but you can catch it in a few theaters this upcoming weekend. Of course, it's the latest from Yorgos Lanthimos, starring once again Emma Stone as a CEO who's kidnapped by Jesse Plemons and his accomplice because they think that she's an alien. Also, I just thought this was kind of an interesting story. In a very limited number of theaters is a movie this weekend called Queens of the Dead. It's about zombies who attack a Brooklyn drag show, and it is the debut feature film of Lisa Romero, daughter of George Romero. So we have a second generation of zombie filmmakers here. Katie O'Brien stars in that one. Hitting Netflix this upcoming weekend, I'm excited to see this. It is Catherine Bigelow's latest film called House of Dynamite, starring Rebecca Ferguson, Idris Elba, and many, many other people. It's about a nuclear strike that is launched on the United States. And if you missed Weapons in theaters, it makes its debut on HBO Max this Friday. So if you didn't see it then, or if you just want to watch it again, you can curl up on the couch and catch it at home. And finally, on Saturday, Paranorman, which is one of those movies that you see more and more getting re-released, will be hitting theaters in remastered 3D. It runs from Saturday through next Tuesday. So if you haven't seen Paranorman, or again, if you're a big fan of that movie, you can catch it in theaters starting on Saturday. And that's all I've got for you this week. It was a pretty straightforward, bare-bones show, but it's going to get much more complicated as we get into the holiday season, into awards season. So I take these lighter weeks where I can. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Again, if you want to become a member here on the channel, be sure to check out the description below. But most of all, thank you for watching this episode. Stay tuned because I have movie reviews. I'm going to try to get my live show going back on Wednesday afternoon this week after being out of town last week. And who knows what movie news might break. You never really quite know what's going to happen here on the channel, but I appreciate you being here for it. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.